I'm so delighted to be joined by somebody that we usually feature here every year, usually a little bit earlier. But it's kind of refreshing to know that despite the fact that coronavirus may have disrupted so many normal things in our lives, there are a couple of things and a couple of traditions that we can hold on to. And for that reason, I'm excited to have Mr. Stephen Diacrussi of the American Timely Theater with us once again. Hi, Stephen. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, Anna. It's a pleasure to being with you.
And so it's nice to know that despite the coronavirus upending our lives and kind of throwing things that we usually take for granted in the summer here in New York a little bit out of whack, that the American Timely Theater and the New York Euripides Festival for the summer were able to continue on.
Yeah, not even the tropical storm Isaias hindered the production efforts for this summer, Anna. After leaving several cast members from Florida and Eastern Long Island without power and unable to rehearse for almost a week, we did experience a slight setback, along with some signal and Wi-Fi problems that we encountered. But for the most part, we almost aired on schedule for the two plays. And it was quite an experience.
Well, it's fascinating because to kind of clarify for the audience member, basically what the American Timely Theater did and the group of actors involved and everybody involved, you guys essentially picked up the entire production and the planning for it and turned it into two virtual experiences that are now on demand.
At a time when live theater has been brought to a halt, the New York Summer Euripides Festival, which has become a New York tradition by now, was able, to find alternate means for the show to go on. This summer's scheduled productions of Euripides' Helen and Electra took on a cinematic, if you will, a twist, becoming accessible not only to New York City outdoor and indoor stages, but by extension to the world, using innovative ideas that combine both theater and filmmaking in a totally innovative way, as you can see from the videos that you have seen.
How did it come about to decide to create these productions for a virtual experience rather than just essentially cancel or postpone the festival for this year, like so many other organizations have decided to do, is just to, write off 2020 as a year? The American Timely Theater decided to forge on. How did that decision come about?
Well, this year, the pandemic has excluded the possibility for us to rehearse and perform physically together. Yet, we are still a team consisting of 21 entertainment professionals from around the country who really wish to continue to work and searching for innovative ways to continue to please our audience. We executed this summer's New York Euripides Summer Festival without anyone having to leave home. And that has been more challenging than any previous summer season in the past.
Absolutely. And I would imagine as the person behind kind of putting this effort together along with other professionals, it had to have been a completely different dynamic than having an entire group of people together on one stage at one time. Kind of go through the process and maybe the different way of putting something together like this, knowing that everybody is not in the same room. I would imagine that for the actors as well, it would have been an incredible challenge to kind of react and it's a completely different way of acting, actually, since they're in a room by themselves.
You're right. It was actually a few weeks prior to starting rehearsals for Helen and Electra. It was during a reading that American Timely Theater had held using Zoom, same medium we're using right now. And I realized the potential of remote filming at that time. And this was, by the way, a reading called The Father of Comedy that a great playwright by the name of Emery Wilson had written about Aristophanes. The only obstacle was to find a way of recording using Zoom, recording a performance, not just a conversation or a reading or a meeting, but a real performance. Really doing cinema, period. And a few weeks later, I realized I was working from home with another 21 or so actors and technical personnel from all over the country, rehearsing and capturing some excellent work while staying safe at home during this debilitating pandemic.
It really is fascinating because, it presents a whole different set of challenges to what you're usually used to. And as you mentioned, it does kind of broaden the audience. But in doing so, just walk us through a little bit of the mechanics. Was this recorded person to person, or was this recorded as a live play? And were you able to rehearse this and kind of make changes to, let's say, costume based on the things that people had at home? I would imagine that some people couldn't necessarily go out and get a great costume, depending on where they were and accessibility to shops and things like that.
Well, we did take what you're thinking of into consideration. And that was stated from the very start in the actual casting notices, namely that we were looking for performers who were technically equipped.
Interesting.
I know there was a time when an actor needed a headshot and a resume. Some had a portfolio. Others had a basic makeup kit. The basic tools that any actor needs to survive. But nowadays, at least for the past decade or so, when self-taped auditions became popular, you would be surprised as to how many actors are technically equipped. I would say very well technically equipped, who did have an external microphone to use, who did have an external camera to adjust, and a background to work in front of. Those were the basic tools that we required from every actor that was ultimately hired for the production.
Well, I want to give the audience a little taste of part of the plays that were put on, both Helen and Electra, and the American Timely Theater put out a trailer on their YouTube page, as well as, of course, the full productions, which are available for your viewing at any time. Let's give the audience a little bit of what people can expect to see on their own personal home devices.
My name, was made the prize. A gift for Greeks.
May the gods curse you, counterfeit of Helen!
I'm overwhelmed by grief to match my pain.
Tell the people who live here of my troubles.
Hate to see you. Helen, the child of Zeus, is in this house.
In fact, it's stupid even to think that birds would help us humans.
Pray, Hera, that her mind remain the same to save you and your husband, my dead father.
Then let her go. I want a pious wife.
My friend, we've had good luck with things inside.
Zeus, you're called the Father, God of wisdom. Look on us now and save us from our troubles.
Ship of Phoenicia, beloved by the waves, don't think of sea breezes, but take up your oars made of fur, and take Helen back to the harbors of Perseus's home.
And nothing is more useful for mortals than clear-minded skepticism.
Till the present time. But now the Troy's foundations have been sacked, and now she's given her name to the gods?
But I am the king! I have power!
People may say I'm stupid since I took a virgin to my house and didn't touch her, but those who think such things should know the truth. Their values are corrupt, and they are too.
By night into the vastness of the sky, I will weep for my dead father.
Last night I went to see my father's grave and wept for him, and gave a lock of hair. It killed a sheep and poured blood on the fire.
No god is listening to my voice in my misfortune.
Princess Electra, pray and praise the gods!
Oh, but what am I supposed to pray about?
The long-lost treasure that the gods revealed!
Still igniting arguments! Enough!
Her lover was, you were both wicked.
Sooner or later, justice comes from the god. Poor woman, so dreadful what happened to you. But you also sinned against your man.
Pity me, don't kill me! You're my father's servants! Bloodshed is paid in blood.
Nobody wants a pauper for a friend.
Gods, there's no art to tell a decent man. I've encountered worthless men, sons from noble fathers, good men born from bad. I've seen hunger in a rich man's mind.
I am a god, and this is my advice to humans.
And we're back, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to see the full plays of either Helen or Electra or both, all you have to do is go to the American Timely Theater's YouTube page. That is Timely, spelled Thymele, and theater, the American spelling, not the British spelling. And you will be able to find both full productions there. And we are speaking with Stephen Diacrussi of the American Timely Theater here on Cosmos FM. We usually have a wonderful discussion every year, a little bit earlier because they're usually holding the New York Summer Euripides Festival at various stages across the city. But thanks to the coronavirus pandemic and, as you mentioned earlier, tropical storm or Hurricane Isaias, you guys got a little creative this year about how to continue to present the plays. And we're very fortunate for that because, as you mentioned, it's actually reaching out to a wider audience and is going to live for a little bit longer than just the summer because it's going to be right there for everybody's viewing entertainment.
Millions of artists from all over the world and from all art forms have stopped working due to the pandemic. Whereas the arts bring people together, people must now stay away from people. Mm-hmm. It's the most profound and yet horrific situation.
But we're very fortunate that the art community really came together during these times and figured out a way to keep people company and provide some form of human contact with each other, especially during the early days, during the heaviest of lockdowns. It was really inspiring to see what some people, groups, creative collectives were coming out with to just show that we're all still here
and still manage to keep our skills honed and the company together.
Absolutely.
And the festival held without any one of the staff and performance having to leave home. That's something that even a few years ago would have been unthinkable.
Absolutely. And it's such a testament that you guys decided, as I mentioned before, that you didn't want to postpone this year, that upon finding the tools and the resources that you wanted to forge ahead and do this, no matter where in the world or how far away you were from each other.
Well, no, we could have waited, but Euripides just did not let us.
So tell us a little bit about this year's selections. Helen, Electra, why these two plays? What was it about these two that kind of decided that these were the ones that needed to be put on this year?
Well, as is the case in many Euripides plays, They're named after famous women. By extension, Euripides was the world's first feminist, if you will. They do have several things in common, other than their heroic names that they're named after. For instance, they both end with the Dioscuri, meaning the sons of Zeus himself. Pollux, also known as Polydeuces, and Castor. Castor being the only character that has lines in both Helen and Electra, both used as Dei, in this case, Dei ex machina, to conclude the plot at the end. There are genealogical similarities between the two. They deal with the end of the Trojan War, and Euripides is being very precise. Helen, for instance, takes place precisely 7 years after the end of the Trojan War. Mm-hmm. And it takes place in an unusually exotic setting outside Greece, namely in Egypt, by the mouth of the Nile, where Helen is carried by Hermes to seek refuge in Egypt, a place where back then wasn't as friendly as it became during the Alexandrian period for Greece and Greek civilization.
So, now we all get to be able to see and enjoy these at any time that we want on our YouTube page. And what has been the response so far? Because it's been a few days or a few weeks that this has been available for viewing.
We're thinking of having had scheduled specific times and dates for the films to premiere, if you will. Mm-hmm. But we decided against that because we were already experiencing myriad technical issues, with Wi-Fi connections,
sure,
picture, freezing, sound, stuttering. So mm-hmm. we didn't think it to be all that wise to show them that way. Instead, we went ahead and captured them and are presenting them in an edited fashion.
And how has the response been so far?
It's been great. I'm surprised at the number of replies I personally have had, not only in my assistants. I don't want to sound hubristic by quoting some of the wonderful comments I've received, but they certainly exceeded my expectations, at least for this summer.
Oh, well, this is so great. And I'm so glad that you were able to continue this tradition, and the American Timely Theater was able to continue this because, it is uplifting, especially here in New York, where we really went through the worst of it, to know that we are able to bounce back even in different ways and kind of hold on to certain things that maybe we took for granted before all this, but that we really treasure now.
I remember when I was a teenager and I was working after school when I was attending Performing Arts High School here in New York. I was working at a radio station. It no longer exists, WEVD. And I remember all the great radio personalities that were walking in and out of its doors on a daily basis. And I remember one thing They were all dressed in business attire, were always wearing a necktie and a jacket, actually putting on a jacket when they would enter the studio before they would go on the air. Something that many today would only bother doing if they were seen, like on television, for instance. Some of that has been lost over the past couple of decades, but the idea of being able to rehearse comfortably from home, not having to worry if we went overtime based on the scheduled hours for rehearsal at the rehearsal studio, that we wouldn't have to worry about being in the same elevator with many others going up to the 16th floor, whatever. It was a blessing. And at the same time, believe me, it was a joy. And although I hope that next year circumstances will change and that we will be able to resume a normal relationship, because theater is a person-to-person exchange, and suddenly theater became something else. It became almost a different medium. But it's what we learned in the long process, and hopefully what what others might have learned from us, which is what counts, I think.
Absolutely. And once again, if you are interested in seeing either the production of Helen or Electra or both, they're available for your viewing pleasure at any time on the American Timely Theater's YouTube page. That's Timely spelled Thymeele. Stephen, thank you so much for being on the program. Thank you so much for taking the time to put this together, because I know it's definitely, it probably was a different set of stresses and yet a different set of joys when it was all done than any other production you've put together. But we as an audience definitely appreciate the fact that you and the other actors and the other people behind the scenes took your time to continue this tradition that we anticipate for every summer.
I personally am grateful to you and your staff, Anna, and everyone at Cosmos FM and the Eliopoulos organization. And I thank you for covering our efforts towards the prominence of timeless Greek culture. And we look forward to seeing our regular audiences in the great outdoors physically together next summer. So I wish you and everyone a safe winter season to all your listeners.
Thank you so much for being on the program.
My pleasure. Stay safe and well.